Don't even say anything. I know. Spider-Man 2 isn't out yet, and I haven't uploaded in almost a year. I know. And while I would sit here and try to find some kind of excuse for that, I don't have one. So instead, I'm going to tell you this video is sponsored by me taking your older sister on a date through the beautiful city that is Irvington, New Jersey, while hoping and praying that the funny men who sit outside the bodega don't try to rob me for everything that I have, and hope that y'all just forget about the fact that that video isn't out yet. Anyways, while we wait for that video to magically appear on the channel, let's stop being stupid and remember that I can make other shit in the meantime. Oh wow, would you look at that? It's the fucking hedgehog again. Back in January of this year, there was a state of play that revealed the next project for Sonic fans to enjoy, and it was Remaster of Sonic Generation. At first, it looked like a little, oh wow, we're off to a great start. I already know what the fucking thing says. At first glance, it looked like a little simple remaster, but just as you think the trailer is gonna end, this sticker just shows up and tells Classic Sonic to kick rocks. And then we see a few clips of gameplay that gave off the impression that we were a bit, that's not what that says, that there was a bit more to this remaster than meets the eye. I have not done this in a while. Please bear with me. For starters, Sega fucked up by naming this fucking game Sonic X Shadow Generations because that was totally a smart idea. But moving past that, it genuinely seemed like they wanted to learn their lesson from previous remasters by giving us something a little more worthwhile with this one. Shadow having his own campaign, new abilities that Sonic himself didn't have, his own set of stages, the return of Black Doom, there's a lot of shit going on here. And as the months continued on, with every trailer and new piece of information released, the Shadow side of this remaster was looking more and more promising. At some point, it genuinely seemed like we were getting a whole ass new game with a Generations remaster slap onto it. But the question is that what we got? Let's take a walk and find out. But before that, you must think that since I did the sponsor joke already that I wouldn't have another one. But guess what? I took a break and now I have more material. So you get two. This video is also sponsored by your mom selling used DVDs to crackheads outside the Waffle House while the Tekken match between a street walker and a nurse practitioner is happening outside. Inside is what that says, but we're gonna go with it. So if you're cool with that, let's go. Sonic Shadow Generations released on October 25th, 2024. The first time in a while I think that a Sonic game didn't release on a Tuesday, which I find interesting. Given the fact that half of this package is a remaster of Generations, let's go over that first really quick for the people who for some reason are out of the loop. Why am I fucking up so much? It has not been that long. Sonic Generations released on November 1st, 2011 to celebrate Sonic's 20th anniversary, and at that point in time, it was a fucking surprise to everybody that he made it that far. The game acted as a celebration for the last 20 years of the Blue Niggas' existence. I guess you can say it was a generational experience. Did you get it? Because the game is called Sonic Generations, and I said it was a generational experience. So it's like the joke here is that I'm going to end my life. You take control as both modern and classic Sonic as you go through stages from the past, and this is surely a very cool and unique idea for the series that will certainly not be overdone over and over again. That's not what that said, but I'm gonna go with it anyway, to the point of literally causing people to hate some of these stages and everything that they stand for. The stages you go through include Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, which will surely only be here for this game and won't continue to come back for the next decade. Chemical Plant from Sonic 2, which will surely only be here for this game and won't continue to come back for the next decade. Sky Sanctuary from Sonic 3, which will surely only be here for this game. And did you see what I did there? I hope you see what I did there. Speed Highway from Adventure, City Escape from Adventure 2, Seaside Hill from Heroes, Crisis City from 06, which was genuinely a surprise to everyone at the time, Rooftop Run from Unleashed, and last, and certainly least, Planet West from Colors. A pretty good selection of stages, but they're not just stages here. We get boss and rival fights too, those being Metal Sonic, the Death Egg Robot, Shadow, Perfect Chaos, Silver, and the Egg Dragoon. But you know, you can't just have stages and fights. You gotta have niggas to play as when you're going through those stages and fighting those niggas. So let's see what said niggas got going on. Classic Sonic and his style of gameplay makes his first appearance in a way that actually matters since the 90s, which will surely be only here for this game and won't continue till he doesn't play exactly like how he did in the classic games. But it's pretty damn close. Unfortunately, it's not close enough. seeing as how I low-key hate playing as him in this game. Like, after I 100%ed his side of things, I kind of just stopped, but that's just me though. It's a multitude of things. He doesn't really have the same sort of physics as he does in the original classic games. He doesn't really roll down hills like that. You don't really gain any momentum by doing that, and it just doesn't feel the same. But as a caveat, I guess that's not the word, probably, I don't know, I don't know anymore, as a silver lining, there you go, that's the word I'm looking for. The best part of his whole gameplay is the broken spin dash, which will literally send you flying across the stage if you angle it properly. And as a bonus for this remaster, he has the drop dash. And now, I'm gonna be honest, I regularly forget that I have it because the spin dash kind of makes it not really useful, but it's there if you want to use it. And that's really all I had to say about him. He's nothing special. This nigga, on the other hand, this is where the real shit happens. Modern Sonic probably has the best gameplay in this series up to this point. This was the third game to use the boost formula. It's like a mixture of Unleashed and Colors. You get the speed and reaction-based gameplay of Unleashed with the more platform-focused gameplay of Colors. It's the best of both worlds. Modern stages are also some of the best designed ones in the series. So many branching paths, and even with some of the more linear stages like Green Hill and City Escape, there's still plenty to do in both to keep you on your toes. These stages are ones that I genuinely, that's not what that says, that I regularly go back to just to show off how fun they always are. I don't know why I read it like that, but I'm gonna keep it anyway. Except for Planet Wisp, this stage sucks no matter who you play as. The gameplay experience, all in all, is very enjoyable, but you know what makes it even better? The music. Generations by far has one of my favorite soundtracks in the series. It's made up of entirely remixes, basically entirely remixes is what the script says, but I'm not gonna lie. For a majority of these remixes, I prefer them over the originals. I think the only ones that I don't are For True Story, Planet Wisp, Perfect Chaos, and The Egg Dragoon. Other than that, everything else is a win. Also, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think the classic remixes in the classic era are a lot better than the modern ones. That could be just me, but I will die in this hill alone if I have to. In terms of remaster specific stuff, on top of the drop dash for both Sonics, which is definitely something modern needs, they added a red ring tracker to, well, keep track of your red rings. It's kind of self-explanatory. They also added 3 missing Chow in every level, which is a cool addition and all, but you know what's more missing than them? The fucking Chow Garden. Sega, this shit is not a game anymore. You know we want it. Stop playing with me. And that's really about it. Oh, I guess the last thing I could talk about is the story, and there isn't one, like, at all. I mean, barely, I guess. Sonic's birthday party is interrupted by this giant monster, and it ends up sending all of Sonic's friends to time, through time, that's what that says. So now it's up to him and his classic self to save everyone. That's basically it. For what little story we have, it was slightly rewritten in the remaster, and I'm gonna be honest, the additions were so inconsequential, you gotta wonder what the point was. But I will further elaborate on all of that later, because I have a lot to talk about when it comes to that shit. Overall, even 13 years later, Generations remains one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. It's still fun to go back to, the music is always something I look forward to hearing, and I'm glad to finally have it on PlayStation, on a PlayStation console, there you go, that's the word, in the big 2024. Even though Shadow was the big selling point of this package, you really shouldn't skip out on revisiting this game if you haven't in a while. And if you haven't played it before, well, like I said before, you get 2 games in one, so you're not really missing out on much. Unless you're that one reviewer whose name I'm forgetting off the top of my head that literally said that Shadow being bundled with a remaster of Generations was a negative thing. But you know, if I was fishing for reasons to hate the game too, I'd probably say something stupid like that as well, so I digress. Speaking of Shadow, we're finally moving on to the main reason for this game in the first place. This was really just a new game with Generations Remaster. Why do my eyes just not register that there's a fucking A in between certain fucking words? That's crazy. This was really just a new game with a Generations Remaster added to it. That's what the script says. And it seriously shows even in the marketing. Without a doubt, this game has had the best pre-launch marketing for any Sonic game in history. Down to the point where I was like, it was hard to find any issues with the game before launch. Every trailer hit like crazy. The promotional stuff with the motorcycle and shit, it was all insane. Nigga, Frontiers did not receive anything like this, but nothing in this whole batch comes close to topping what is clearly the best marketing move they could have done, Dark Beginnings. The Sonic games ever since, I want to say, TSR have had this trend of releasing prologue animations as part of the marketing. TSR had Overdrive, Sonic Colors Ultimate had Rise of the Wisps, Frontiers had Divergence, Superstars had Triple Trouble, and now Shadow Gens has Dark Beginnings. If I'm missing one, I'll probably include it in the thing afterwards. I'll ask my editor to include it in the thing afterwards, but I'm pretty sure those are the only ones. This 3-part animation acted as a way to reintroduce us to Shadow's character before the release of the game, and this shit was fucking fire. The animation on the fights and in general, but mainly the fights went fucking stupid, dog. The way this nigga and Emerald were throwing hands, Omega being the coolest nigga ever like always, even Rouge just beating motherfuckers. Why can't we get a damn series with this level of animation? These niggas are plaguing with me. Maria is actually a character that I care about now, and it's in part thanks to this whole ordeal, even down to us getting a new vocal song from fucking Casey Lee Williams. And as a Ruby fan, I've been waiting for this day ever since she announced that she was working on the Sonic Symphony. However, Shadow Gens, it's not just an animation, it's also a game. So let's talk about the game. Shadow Generation stars Shadow, shit really, as he goes on a journey through his past in order to defeat Black Doom after he mysteriously comes back from the dead. Getting the story out of the way really quick, I mean this with no exaggeration, this is the best written Sonic story since Black Knight, probably ever, even before that, that's what that says. Ian locked in with this shit and he managed to turn Shadow back into a character that actually I can respect and care for. On top of that, like I said with Dark Beginnings, he managed to turn Maria into a character that I also care about, and the story actually made me sad near the ending. You know what helps? The fact that Kirk also locked in and gave us his best performance ever as this character ever since he got casted. This shit is ridiculous. As much as I loved Frontiers' story, this game kind of made me rethink that just a bit, just off of how much Ian's writing has improved in just 2 years. That's kind of fucking crazy. Fun fact, I said just 4 times in that last sentence. Even funner fact, half of those were not even in the script. So, you're welcome. Now, as all things are, it's not perfect. I genuinely hate the fact that this level of writing was used on a game that only had like 30 to 40 minutes worth of cutscenes, because all it did was make me want more. And honestly, if my only complaint with the story was that I wanted more of it, then clearly that means we were fed properly this time around. You know what also helps? The fact that this game undoubtedly has the best animated in-game cutscenes in the series. Also, massive fucking improvement from Frontiers, and this is honestly should be the standard going forward. There's no excuse for future games to be animated worse than this at all. The action is well choreographed, the talking scenes aren't boring, and they're positioning the camera in actual interesting ways. They really got this shit on lock now. Speaking of shit being on lock, the gameplay. Gotta be blunt, this is the best and most fun gameplay that I've experienced from this franchise, being only beaten out by Unleashed. The level design is spectacular, and it really challenges your understanding of the game's mechanics and controls, and Shadow feels great to play as. The speedrun tactics that people have already managed to find out for this game are ridiculous, but I can't blame them. This is the first game since Generations that I actually cared about speedrunning and getting better times in, as well as making sure that I get the S rank on all the stages, which I did, ignore that. Stage-wise, given the fact that this is a Generations game, all of them come from previous Sonic games, these levels being Space Colony Art from SA2 and Shadow, Rail Canyon from Heroes, Kingdom Valley from 06, Sunset Heights from Forces, oh for fuck's sake, Chaos Island from Frontiers, you weren't even in this game, what the hell, and lastly Radical Highway from SA2.
Sunset Heights and Chaos Island do confuse me though. Shadow Gens takes place at the same time as Sonic Gens, so Forces and Frontiers haven't happened yet, and even then, Shadow was in Forces, so this makes sense, while he wasn't in Frontiers, so that's weird. The obvious answer is that they probably did it to save time, since Hedgehog Engine 2 already has assets from both of these games in there, so why not? But it would have been cool if they tried to make some form of story connection to them, but it is what it is. The game is kind of set up in the opposite order of base gens, where Act 1 is a fully 3D level while Act 2 is a 2D one. I've already spoken about how good the first acts are, but surprisingly the second acts are just as good. These are probably the best 2D designed levels in modern Sonic, with Kingdom Valley and Sunset Heights being the highlights. I'm still not a fan of them constantly giving us 2D gameplay in 3D games, but if they have to keep doing it, the levels need to be designed like this. Same for if we were to ever get another modern 2D game, whether it be Boost or closer to Advanced, this is the standard from now on. Something else that I love about this game is the inclusion of mid-stage cutscenes like this one in Sunset Heights, and I really wish they did this more often. They managed to smoothly transition the gameplay to cutscene and back, and it's so fucking cool. Just like in Gens, there's 4 main boss fights here too, those being Bio Lizard, Metal Overlord. I love this trend of characters being able to beat bosses that it took their super states to beat in the past without them now. Mephiles, the best fight in the game, and Devil Doom. Bio Lizard is the Bio Lizard. It's the 3rd time in this series that we fought him, and it's honestly the best time. Metal Overlord and Shadow just spend the whole fight shit-talking each other, which I found entertaining, and I think it's really cool that Chaos Control doesn't freeze Metal, since Broken already used the ability himself. Mephiles annoys me though, but not for the reasons that you'd think. The idea of Mephiles coming back and remembering everything while the heroes
Shadows don't is such a cool concept, and I would have loved to see it fully fleshed out in a full game, not just for this boss fight, but at least we get to see him again. Now voiced by Robbie Damon, who did a fantastic job. I low-key feel bad for him, bro just wanted to not be forgotten. Speaking of the Doom powers, Shadow has been graced with 5 new abilities that I genuinely hope he doesn't lose in future games. We have the Doom Spear, which allows you to fire 5 Chaos Spheres at once, the Doom Blast, which allows you to blast enemies through objects, Doom Surf, which allows you to traverse water, Doom Morph, which allows you to traverse this purple goop, and the Doom Wing, which is basically Shadow's version of Supersonic in this game, which is weird because, you know, he has the super form, but whatever. As much as I think these abilities are cool and I really do think it'll make him stand out more, to be completely honest, Spear and Blast are the 2 main abilities that I hope carry over in my personal opinion. Surf technically isn't needed if you just make the characters run on water, which they should always be able to do. Morph is very inconsequential, and the Wing can easily just be a super shadow power up going forward. But that's just me. So you might be wondering, hey Soulite, how do we access such super cool and fun stages? I'm so glad you asked. Basically, just like how Gens had a hub world called White Space, Shadow has his own White Space. Though instead of it being 2D like in the last time, there you go, Shadows is fully 3D and designed like an open zone. I like to think that the reason why Shadows is a fully designed 3D world while Sonic's is a 2D plane is because while Shadow has a lot more going on in his head, Sonic, on the other hand, is a very simple-minded creature who doesn't put much thought into literally anything. So it's a straight line. All he does is look forward. So that's my headcanon. But back to White Space. Since it's designed like an open zone, the best things to compare it to are the islands from Frontiers. And to be honest, I think White Space is better designed, there you go, than every single Starfall Island except for maybe Ares. Like, it's like a tie, basically. For starters, they're already getting better when it comes to the draw distance, as the pop-in is nowhere near as egregious as it was before, down to me not even noticing it half the time if there is any. They've also gotten way better when it comes to world design as well. One of my biggest issues with Frontiers was how all of the platforming was just placed haphazardly throughout the islands with no sense of, well, sense. It looked stupid, kind of like me when it comes to reading this fucking script. Yes, while there are still moments where the platform sections do just float there, at least they actually look like they're a part of the environment now, and I'm genuinely happy about that. The levels themselves are also getting better with this too, but this isn't about them right now. Scattered throughout White Space are these chests, with each being 1 of 3 colors, and those colors corresponding to a different collectible. Blue is for concept art, yellow is for music, green is for Shadow's backstory. Not gonna lie, the blue ones are definitely my favorite to find because I love seeing concept art from various games throughout the series, and I hope something like this carries over into the future. They even had concept art for Sonic X of all things, and that surprised me heavily. I'm not even gonna make the joke I was about to make. The music operates just like how it does in base gens. You find the music, you use said music in the stages. It's really simple, and you can bet your ass I changed Space Colony Arctic 2's music on every replay because I just refuse to keep listening to that shit. The backstory pieces consist of read-ups you can look over in the collection room that detail Shadow's role in different games that he's appeared in. This is also a great way to help people learn more about his character, and I also believe this is something that they should also carry over into future games with all the playable characters, because hopefully after this game they know that we want them and they keep adding playable characters in the future, because that'd be really dumb if they didn't, but neither here nor there. Speaking of the collection room, similar to Sonic's, this is where you can view all the different collectible items that you find in the stages and in White Space. I just said this 2 times already, but this is another feature that should really carry over going forward. You could put the collection room in, I don't know, a Chow Garden perhaps. Sega, I'm so deadass, stop fucking playing with me and give me the damn Chow Garden back. You can also get collectibles by ringing these bells on top of the challenge acts just like in base gens, and I never knew how annoying it would be to chase these things down in 3D until actually doing it, because holy shit. Speaking of the challenge acts, there's 2 for each act, and they're more fun than Sonic's. Not much else I could really say about them. This is the part where I talk about the music, and I don't care what anyone says, this soundtrack is 95% bangers. Space Colony Arctic 1 is genuinely better than the original Final Rush. Kingdom Valley Act 1 is close, but still really good. The Resident Evil? The BioLizard remix is the best version of the song to date. What I'm Made Of is also really good. Mephiles' Boss Theme 2, White Space, they're all fire. Except Space Colony Act 2, this song fucking sucks. Like, genuinely, and it's crazy, because this level has both my favorite and least favorite remix in the game. So isn't that something? Also, Chaos Island Act 1 irks my soul in so many ways. The EDM, that's not what that says. The second part of the song is actually pretty nice. You just gotta get through the generic EDM and Snover cries before getting to the actual good part.
Yeah, it's not great. As much as I like to make fun of niggas like Premi for complaining about AEM, I myself, whoa, let me try it again. I myself can admit that it's time to hang it up. Every single main stage theme in this game has some EDM elements to them, and it's like a little tiring. In a way, I guess it's the best way I could describe it, but I'm not gonna drag on it too much. Overall, the music is really good. With that out the way, I think that covers everything. Shadow Generations is literally the best Sonic game that we've gotten since Unleashed, and it just shows the Sonic team's dedication to bringing this franchise back into the spotlight in a positive way. There's still some work that needs to be done, however, as there's still things that I'm not fully on board with. For example, I genuinely hate the fact that Shadow still does this dumbass idle pose that Sonic's been doing ever since Lost World. Please retire this shit. This is definitely moving more into nitpick territory, but I hate the jump ball we've been stuck with since Forces. I'm also not a fan of the fact that Shadow's starting homing attack animation is the Frontier's parry. It's cool that his homing attack is just Chaos Snap, and it allows you, why am I speaking like this? And it allows you to actually teleport through obstacles, but still, those few frames before doing that bother me. You'd have to be a loser to notice shit like this, and it's a good thing I am one, because what the fuck? This wasn't in the script, but I'm gonna add on to it real quick. I'm also not really a fan of the way that the camera's been moving, and it doesn't feel natural. Like, in Generations, like the base game, when Sonic is running, you can kind of see like the camera kind of like sways with like his foot movements and everything. The way he turns around corners and stuff, like the camera moves in a certain way to make it seem more dynamic. In this game and how it's been since Forces, it's been more stagnant and not really moving and not really interacting with the world the same way that it has before. And I really, really hope that they change that going forward, because it's low-key really annoying. And I also don't really like the way that it pans around. Like, even here, like, look at this like clip in like Green Hill where he's going out of the corkscrew and then it turns to like face behind him, and like see how smooth that was. In here at the beginning of Space Colony Arc, it literally just snaps behind him. I don't like that. It feels unnatural to me. But I don't know if I'm the only person who cares about shit like this, but I feel like I'm not. But hey, there you go. And I also think they did pretty good there for a part that was unscripted, and now I'm fucking it up by making a joke about it. But you know what? That's what I do. That's my steez. Yeah. Going forward, I hope they work more in making all the characters feel different from each other. Gens is still killer for giving Sonic unique recovery animations out of all of his homing attacks, and I wish Shadow had the same thing. With this in mind, actually, I feel like the recipe for the best Sonic game ever made is lying between these three games right here. If they took the ambition, playable characters, and supersonic gameplay, and the runtime from Frontiers, the type of camera movement, in-game animation quality, and the music from Gens, Sonic Gens, and the story writing, level design, cutscene animation, and world design of Shadow Gens, we'd literally be sitting on something amazing. No questions asked. Now, look, while I want to finish this video off on a high note, there's something that needs to be addressed. Before that, I will say once again that Shadow Generations is a fantastic game and is definitely the best game we've had since Unleashed. Besides the little nitpicks that I have, my biggest issue with the game genuinely is the fact that I wish there was more. And if I had another really big issue, it's the same problem that I had with OG Gens, being that the gameplay experience is so amazing, I wish we got to experience it in fully original stages and bosses. Other than that, that's your video game. Okay, now for the tangent. I'm convinced that Sonic fans have become so accustomed to recent games releasing having some form of controversy or problem surrounding them that the one time we didn't have that, they had to fabricate the most nonsensical and nothing issues I think I've ever seen. For starters, let me just get this out the way now and say that I'm a fan of Ian Flynn's writing. Without him, we'd still be stuck with the shitty writing that we've been plagued with since 2010. With that being said, when it was made known, there you go, that Ian would be writing the story for Gens, rewriting the story for Gens, there you go, I was hyped because I thought maybe he'd actually be able to work with this nothing plot. But in typical Sonic fan fashion, a certain selection, that says section, of them were unhappy about this, saying things like, oh, Flynn is gonna ruin the original story with references. First of all, what story? You can't ruin something that didn't already exist to begin with. Second, ruin the story with references. I genuinely believe people drag it when they say Ian's writing is played with references. And I felt this way ever since Frontiers. But there's gotta be some of the dumbest shit I was hearing niggas complain about. You don't want references in a game where the entire fucking premise is to be a giant reference. This is such a nothing complaint. And this whole thing about the reference shit in the first place is just dumb. From Colors to I wanna say Frontiers, we've been stuck with this Saturday morning cartoon style of writing where every game existed in its own vacuum, separated from not only the game that came right before them, but all the games that came before them. There was an insanely large lack of continuity and recognition for the games and the stories that fans held in high regard. And
people rightfully hated that shit. The same people who are now mad that that same recognition that they've been wanting is now being given to them in the form of callbacks. Well, fuck me, I guess. People's main issue with the callbacks is that they feel like Ian does it too much, and it's overdone and basically in every line of dialogue. And that would make sense and would be valid if it were true, but it's not. And the people saying this sound dumb. In Frontiers, if you focus solely on the stuff that you need to complete in order to progress through the story and not optional dialogue, the callbacks are still not as egregious as people like to drag. On Chronos, there are barely any. On Ares, there's the Sonic 3 flashback and the mention of Super Knuckles. On Chaos, there's the mention of Station Square, the Deadly Six, and the one scene that has Dark Gaia and Infinite mentioned. And after that, there's barely any. These are all things that, once again, fans have been wanting to be acknowledged again. Maybe not the Deadly Six, but that's not the point. And now that they are, there you go, it's too much. And the way people try to say that Ian handles it is just blatantly incorrect. And if you want to use what he did in Generations as an excuse, once again, the game itself is a big ass callback that already had references in the script prior to Ian changing some things. So what are we really talking about right now? In case I forgot to mention it before, it wasn't just a rewrite. Some of the cutscenes got reanimated in some cases, but the two that are causing the discourse both involve Amy. I don't know why I put a pause on that. The first and last cutscenes of Sonic's birthday party, but more specifically the last one. People think that there's been this serious erasure of Amy's crush on Sonic, and while I strongly believe that that's stupid and not true, people were mostly complaining about the fact that Amy doesn't smack Knuckles hard enough to send him flying into the tree anymore. Okay, so when Generations first released, people were mad about this cutscene because it made Knuckles look weak and goofy or some shit like that, and we're not about to act like that wasn't the case because it 100% was. And now that Amy doesn't send this nigga into a tree, suddenly all the whimsy of this series is gone. I want my cartoon characters to be cartoon characters and the like. And you know what I find funny about this? There actually was a point in time where Sonic was a cartoon character doing silly and unserious shit. Let's take a trip down memory road, shall we?
Hey, Tails, you missed the BBBE.
Huh?
Best boss beating ever.
Who they call Baldy Nosehair.
Baldy nose hair. Whew, that was cool. Pun entirely intended. Oh, hey, sounds like the party started. Want to let me go and join in? No? Of course not. You hate fun.
Oh wait, people hated when Sonic and friends were acting like cartoon characters. Oh, because it was an insult to their characters back then. This is different. The original scene that y'all are acting like you missed so much was also an insult to Knuckles according to y'all. So once again, what's the argument? People choose the most inconsequential shit to complain about. Like if niggas' complaints were shit like, I don't know, the delivery on everyone who wasn't Blazer SBO in the Gens redub was kind of bad, or the fact that some of the new animation in the cutscenes didn't look too good, or the fact that if they weren't gonna go the full 9 yards to fully fix Generation story, then they should have left it alone entirely. But no, what I mentioned before is infinitely more important. I'm not gonna stay on this topic for much longer, but shit like this is why the Sonic fan base is so laughed at. Even when we finally get a win, there has to be discourse to meet the status quo, or the universe is gonna fucking fall apart or some shit. I don't know, it's just dumb. And to be completely honest, I really think that the hate that Ian Flynn gets is blown way out of proportion. Like if Sega were to decide to take Sonic back to the style of writing we had in the 2010s, nobody would be able to be mad because all niggas do is complain. Story and writing wise, we're in the best position we've been in years, and niggas still aren't pleased. We couldn't be in better hands, but because Amy doesn't like Sonic anymore, or haha, references, Ian is apparently Pontav Jr. Shit is fucking ridiculous. Fun fact, I said I wasn't gonna stay on this topic for much longer, but then ended up spending 10 minutes trying to get the line right, so hey, look at me being a fucking liar. Anyway, I'm done talking about this. Moral of the story is go play Shadow Generations, and some of you niggas need help.
Stop it. Get some help.
As for what's next, I'm gonna stop making promises because Spider-Man 2 was supposed to come out a year ago and it still hasn't yet. So you're gonna have to stick around and find out what's next because I don't know yet either. So this is a learning experience. We're gonna do this together. With that being said, I'm out this bitch and tell your mama that she should come over and do that thing she used to do.